Hello, fairy tale things, and welcome back to my swamp. If you're new here, we collect Shrek, and today you are in for a treat because we're going to be looking back at, let's be honest, the best Shrek toys ever made. The absolutely amazing playsets from McFarlane Toys, released back in 2001 for the original Shrek movie. These are three small playsets. You see the tree, the house, and the outhouse here, which I have new in the box, that connect together to form a truly awesome miniature Shrek world. I've been wanting to build this for years, and this last piece has taunted me. It was one that I had to buy new in the box and not loose. You'll find out for a reason later in this video, so stick around as we delve into not just the detail and the beauty of this toy line, but some of the history, because I think it's pretty interesting. So let's get right to it and check out the box. And let me just say, as someone that collects loose toys and prefers to play and display my toys, this one's gonna sting a bit, because this is a heck of a package. This is how you make in-box toys. This is a beautiful displayable piece. You'll see the purple border here with the Shrek render, which is pretty consistent with everything released for the original Shrek movie. If you don't know, every Shrek film has had its own color associated with its branding, and for the original Shrek movie, that color was purple. Probably because Shrek's green ogre skin just looks so perfect against the purple color, but there's no need for fancy box art and renders. They let the window box here do all the talking. A nice big window with Shrek and the outhouse visible. It's gorgeous. On the side, we have a clean render of Shrek in his outhouse. Again, an iconic moment, if not the most iconic moment of the Shrek franchise, captured in toy form. And there at the top, we see the classic McFarlane Toys logo. If you collected Spawn or Kiss figures in the early 2000s, you will recognize this piece of Y2K design. But for those that don't know, McFarlane Toys is really the household name in the toy collecting world. Even before companies like NECA and Super 7, McFarlane was out there making stuff aimed at the adult collecting market. Premium toys and action figures helmed by Todd McFarlane himself. And Shrek was definitely an odd step for McFarlane Toys to just come out here and make this tie-in toy line with a kids film, but it makes more sense when you think about it. Now, this wasn't the first tie-in toy line for McFarlane Toys. They had made Austin Powers a few years previously, another Mike Myers-helmed project. See how the connections are made there? One way or another, McFarlane got himself wrapped up in Shrek and decided to go all in, as you can see, with a really impressive toy line with playsets, action figures, plush, really everything you could ask for a cartoon toy line. I think McFarlane wanted to prove himself as somebody that not only could make premium action figures, but also toys for a family film. Because Shrek was the first family film that McFarlane Toys was making action figures. I don't think any parents were rushing out to buy Austin Powers figures, but Shrek stuff, yeah, it's understandable. And what you'll see with these toys is, like Shrek itself, these toys have a family mentality. What I mean by that is they target adults with the level of detail, but they're still toys that can be played with by kids. They're not exclusively adult collectibles. It's like the Shrek movies themselves. Yes, they're cartoons and they can be enjoyed by kids, but they're very sophisticated and they have a lot of layers to them that would appeal to adults. And McFarlane took this mentality to an 11 with this toy line. These are truly collectibles that are also toys. In a weird way, these toys kind of predicted the future of toy collecting, where now we see things like pop vinyls and premium Lego sets, stuff that, yes, it's toys, but it's also catering to an adult market. So Todd McFarlane, the GOAT man in the toy collecting world, whatever you think of him, you gotta admit, he did a heck of a job with Shrek of all things. And the dude just really likes Shrek. Like, he honestly enjoys it. He even worked on the Shrek Xbox game and, like, designed characters for it. When McFarlane Toys went to Toy Fair in 2001, they had a big Shrek display, really showing people just how much product they had out there. This image in particular taunts me because if you look closely, you'll see a bunch of products that didn't come out. That big Fiona doll, but that's a story for another time. Todd McFarlane himself even stood at the Shrek booth handing out free miniature Shrek figures to attendees of the show. And what's cool is that this figure is actually an exclusive Shrek figure. The only way to get this was to go at Toy Fair to the Shrek booth and shake hands with Todd McFarlane. And something that I think is funny is if you look at the back here, again with all the toys, a lot of these are prototypes. They don't quite match the final design. Like you'll see, it depicts a Shrek figure that is clearly not the one included in the set. It's actually this guy here, the one given away at Toy Fair. So maybe that's the only figure they had access to at the time. But if you do want this guy, you could get him on eBay. He comes in a little special Toy Fair bag. A similar figure was also released in the Shrek and Friends pack. They made several packs of figures you could add on to your Shrek world here. And don't worry, we will populate it with fairy tale creatures later in the video. But let's just get right to it now. Let's open up this toy. Oh man, this is gonna pain me because it's such a beautiful box. But I'm an opener. I believe in opening and playing with your toys. And 24 years later, you guys, we are breaking the seal on the Shrek Outhouse toy. My god, this packaging is so old, it's like disintegrating on me. It doesn't even want to open properly. You know, one thing McFarlane excelled at back in the day that I think is really underrated is these miniature playsets. They didn't just make them for Shrek, they also did a bunch of these with the Universal Monsters. I don't think they were licensed by the Universal Monsters, but you know, it was like the Wolfman, the Phantom of the Opera, Dracula, and like Shrek, there were these big pieces. And they were also very toy-like, you know, they weren't super brittle collector pieces. You know, these days a lot of people say McFarlane just isn't quite up to snuff with those 6-inch figures compared to NECA and Hasbro. And I think McFarlane should go back to exploring these smaller formats, because Todd and his team, they really excelled at this type of stuff. And if you don't know, they did also make 6-inch figures for the original Shrek. I've talked about them before. They're really impressive and amazing. Only problem is that the articulation is just not, well, good. But what's great about these guys is you don't need all that articulation to build a scene. You just need, you know, good poses and good displays, if I can ever get them open. Well, they don't package toys like they used to. You know, that's one thing from the 2000s I'll never have nostalgia for, is the sheer amount of twist ties crammed onto action figure packaging. This is ridiculous. Alright, well, I'm not gonna lie, that packaging was very difficult to open, but now that we have all three, we can build the swamp. Thankfully, I did keep my old instruction manuals from the previous playsets, so it says here that the right side of the swamp bath fits with the left side of the outhouse base. Okay, so that would mean that the bath playset goes in the center, right? Alright, check this out. So they actually have little tiny pegs. They're very hard to see in there. The camera doesn't really capture them well, but they do click together. So we're just gonna combine this. Yeah, there we go. And that makes a single piece, okay? So now we just have the house, which the house doesn't click in, but it does go really thin here. And then if you look at the tree, you'll see it has a little slot there where that slides in. So these two click, and then this one just goes underneath the base like that. It's kind of difficult because there's all these tiny pieces, but there we go. There is the Shrek Swamp playset. And then we have Shrek here eating his slugs. Here is Shrek bathing, right? And then finally, Shrek going to the bathroom. So there's our playset. And We're not gonna do much more by just sitting here with you guys seeing my ugly ogre mug. We need to flip the camera around and actually get into the details of this playset. So let's check out all the cool little features this toy has. Now here's where the fun begins. We get to look at the playset and its play features. The whole thing's connected. It's not a straight line. It kind of goes at an angle. So if you want to display this, keep in mind you'll need some space forward. You'll need it for Shrek in his chair anyways, but we're going to go to the house piece first since this is the main item you want for your display, Shrek's house. We're going to move Shrek here and check out the actual house display. It's got a full front and detailed back, and this is nuts. Look at that level of detail. The paint apps department at McFarlane Toys was not paid enough for their work. This looks insane. It has such realism, but at the same time, such style to it. It's very whimsical, very fantasy, and it really captures the gritty, dank look of the first Shrek movie. I love how this one log reaches all the way here and creates more of the shape of the house without a lot of plastic. It's quite beautiful. And then for the interior, we only get the stove here. You know, it's not a full Shrek's house playset, but it makes for a stunning display piece when you have the table and chair in front here. Now, the little rats on the stew pot here, this is the only piece I am missing with this playset is this house here. I bought it loose. I didn't get it new. And I thought it was complete, but it turns out I'm missing a couple of things. I'm missing the lid to put over the stew pot, and then I'm also missing, if you look in the fireplace here, there's supposed to be a second hook right here where this one twig would hang, and then each individual rat, I guess these are weed rats, they'd make a killer stew, slips on to the wood here, and that would hang over. See how, like, delicate and beautiful these toys are? It's amazing, but it broke, and, you know, I imagine a lot of these toys did because they were played with by children, but, you know, not every toy has to be super child-friendly. I think it's cool that they made something that could be enjoyed by adults and kids, and I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of kids that had this toy would become adult toy collectors. Something like this is a gateway into adult collecting. It makes you appreciate the finer aspects of toy detail. I mean, look at the smoldering pot here with the rich stew inside and the burnt bottom. Like, you're just not gonna see that on something like, I don't know, Imaginext. Even cooler, this little fire piece on the bottom is actually removable, so you have a blank Shrek house, and you could become an interior decorator and put whatever you'd like in Shrek's house. Give his home an extreme makeover, but I like it accurate to the movie, so we're going to have this stew here, and then I'm just going to hang these weed rats near the top here since, you know, I'm missing that piece, but they still look good. And with this weed rat here, check this out. So this is what I meant by cool play features. So here's Shrek and the table, and the little weed rat that hangs or goes in the stew actually goes in the mouth of Shrek. Look at that little hole he's got between his lips, and he can slurp up the weed rat like he does in the movie. You may remember he slurps one up when he's talking to Fiona on the log at sunset. You could actually make that scene with these figures. So you get a 2-in-1 with this Shrek. So even though this Shrek is very pre-posed, you can't do a whole lot with him, he can eat the dinner and he can also recreate that scene with Fiona, which I think is really, really awesome. It's like a 2-in-1 bonus figure, but you can remove the weed rat here and then have him at his dinner scene, his peaceful dinner before it gets interrupted by the dead broad that needs to get off the table. And yeah, you can actually put the dead broad on the table. I mean, you could really recreate all of the original Shrek with these toys, and that's why they're so flippin' cool. Look at the table here. Look at the wood. These are all individual pieces. This is why these sets are so tough to find complete, because you've got the worms in the little can, the earwax candle, the two little more worms here. Never enough worms with Shrek. And then here's his little placemat with a little fish on it, and the fish is even removable. You could put whatever you want on Shrek's dish. And there's a second fish here. This guy here, this bright blue one. This slug, you'll notice he's bent because he actually can fit in Shrek's open hand here. And that's the cool thing about this figure is, you know, you can do multiple things with it. Even though, again, it's very pre-posed. McFarlane was not known for a lot of articulation. But with a small scale like this, I don't think you need a ton of articulation. I think you just need to create a cool scene. And boy, is that not a cool scene. There we go. Now we have Shrek totally picking out on Weed Rat and Slug. But moving over to the next one, the Shrek bathing playset. This is honestly the most interesting out of the three. So here is Shrek mostly naked and brushing his teeth and getting ready for the day. If we look at the base here, you can see we have more swampy slugs. Honestly, a whole bunch of them in here. Look at these little guys. And they're all made out of rubble. Look at that little tadpole fish. That's freaky. A lot of paint apps on these little guys, too. Like, they didn't need to all be bright colors. They could have all just been, like, brown or green. But no, they went the extra mile and gave each of these guys their own unique paint jobs. And that is so cool for something that just sits at the base here. I think I missed one. Look at this guy. Where's his face? There it is. He's like, help me, I'm being stepped on by a naked Shrek. This is the last thing the slug sees before it dies. That is terrifying. Here is naked Shrek brushing his teeth with a little removable swampy toothbrush here with the green sludge he's brushing his teeth with. And then he got his little toothbrush cup here that's probably just as gross as my own toothbrush cup. And here is the naked Shrek figure. Finally, an action figure that looks like my own body. He-Man always set the standard too high. Now this is much more attainable. It's like looking at a meal, unfortunately. But yeah, there is naked Shrek. And as far as naked Shrek figures go, you know, you get nice articulation. Again, the detail, look at the head sculpt on that. It's amazing. The pigmentation all around his shirtless body is insane. It's not just solid green. Those hues of dark green and brown and even red like on the arm here that give it texture. I mean, look at his back. It's so believable that this is real. The way it gets darker towards the neck because this area would be a little more tanned since it shows through his tunic, and this area is a little lighter. It's insane what they were able to do here. Even look at his belly here with the light chest hair sculpted on. That is insane. So this toy is really a composite of several different scenes. First, we have the bucket here, which actually does come off of the branch. And you would have filled this originally with swamp sludge, and you would have poured it down Shrek's back like in the movie and seen him get oozed. Well, in the movie it's mud, but with the toy it was swamp sludge. And thankfully, I am happy to inform that I have kept my swamp sludge. Here it is, 24 years later, and ooh man, that is not a substance I want anywhere near my skin. I have double bagged it. Look at this nasty thing. Oh my god. I get that it's supposed to be gross, but wow, that is toxic. And there's like some sort of weird red and yellow material like growing around it. Yeah, I don't know about this one, but we'll revisit it in another 24 years when it's mutated and formed some sort of living creature in the bag. This looks like it would be the basis of a Batman villain storyline. And maybe it will be. Who knows? I'll keep it in my bedroom, and we'll see what happens. But back to the toy. We also have two brushes here, so we can comb our Shrek like a My Little Pony doll. This one here is what he uses to scrub the mud all around his body in the opening of the movie. And what's cool about this brush is he actually can hold it, so he can scrub himself. Look at that. And then this second brush here, I don't know why this man keeps so many brushes for a man who's bald. And they're so delicate and intricate. I mean, these toys have so many tiny pieces. And then finally we have the mirror here, which hangs off of the side by the tiniest little attachment that, in my case, disintegrated. I mean, it really is this tiny little plastic piece, so I've had to glue it back on. Chances are you will have to as well, since these things are, again, over 20 years old. Things don't last forever. And what's interesting about this toy is I did say it was a composite because we never see this actual tree with all of these pieces. They're just close-up shots we see at different points in the movie. And just for the heck of it, let's figure out the lore of this toy. First is the bucket, which is the most obvious based off of the mud sequence. Then we see Shrek putting toothpaste on his toothbrush. The toy decides to put the toothbrushes in the actual cup and not the toothpaste, but it is still very accurate, and you can actually see the little brush hanging on the tree in the movie that the toy depicts. And then we have the meal. In the movie, during the opening sequence, we only see the meal super close up, but then towards the ending, during the Hallelujah sequence, Shrek looks at his reflection in the broken glass of the meal that he broke, and we see for a brief moment the actual meal attached to the tree. This is the only moment in the whole film we see this meal on the tree in full that the toy was based off of, and you'll notice it doesn't quite look like the toy. The toy took some creative liberties by having the meal hang off of the tree as opposed to being on it. We don't even see Shrek in these little shorts. You may recall Shrek is completely nude in the opening of the movie. Well, they couldn't sell a nude Shrek toy, so they had to give him some briefs here to cover up his ogre stuff, right? But things get more interesting. Check out this. This is the Shrek 2 body wash commercial. And you'll notice Shrek is wearing the briefs from the toy, and we actually can see this tree apparatus close up. Was this toy based off of a body wash commercial? Well, it can't be, because that's the Shrek 2 body wash, not Shrek 1. So did this Shrek body wash commercial use this toy as a base? Maybe, but I have a more interesting theory. So in the body wash commercial, the tree looks a little bit different. The meal is actually in the center of the tree and not on the side. And Shrek's boxers have a slightly different pattern. They're almost a match, but they're just a little bit different. Well, here's an image for the prototype version of the toy, and it's not quite the final product, but it is a perfect match for the body wash commercial. So here is my theory. This toy was based off of a deleted scene from the opening of Shrek, where we would have seen a pull-out camera shot of Shrek doing his morning routine in his boxers. I mean, he doesn't brush his teeth nude. I don't think anyone does. He would have been wearing those boxers, but remember, the opening of Shrek was heavily edited, as it originally was set to a different song. It was set to Stay Home by the band Self, and Smash Mouth's All-Star was a late inclusion into the movie. They had to re-edit the opening, and I think when they re-edited it for Smash Mouth, this scene was cut, but we now have it immortalized in toy form. So how about that? Bet you didn't know there was all that lore behind a half-naked Shrek brushing his teeth. And then finally we move on to the most iconic scene of the Shrek franchise, the outhouse. And look at the detail on this toy. It is just ridiculous. Let's look at the outhouse itself first. Beautifully sculpted, even with the little plants out front. It is nuts. Look at the back of this thing, the aged wood. Oh my god, there's a little lizard on the side. Like, details like that do not need to be on the toy, but that is Todd McFarlane and his team going for that extra mile. And then in the outhouse itself, we have the little door locks, which are separate little pieces. And look at that. That is a nice little throne inside. Little toilet paper. Does it spin? It doesn't spin, but it is attached separately. And the lid lifts up, yep, and you get, well, you get a hole. There it is. Do you want to use the bathroom? And that, hey, I have seen worse, my friends. I have seen worse. Have you ever tried to use a porta potty in a state park before in the USA? That is not fun. Not fun at all. And also, not good for the environment. I always wonder why state parks have some of the worst outhouses, but I guess they're pretty limited with taxpayer money. But anyways, here's Shrek, and he can use the outhouse. It's kind of a strange toy when you think about it, like what kid wants a bathroom playset, but consider it's a big part of the movie. And also, you know, toilet toys have sold since, feels like, the dawn of time. I mean, it's a common thing to sell gross out toys, especially to this age demographic. You know, Shrek in particular, in its early days, was marketed to young boys, like 12 to 13-year-olds, who definitely would find a toy like this funny. And the Shrek that comes with it is a really nice, neutral Shrek figure. You know, some of the other ones we've had are obviously very pre-posed, but this guy here is very neutral, very content. He's emptied his stomach, and he looks quite happy about it. He's got some nice swivel articulation here. He has an extra swivel in the hand, and then this hand swivels. Yeah, that's good swivel articulation. Do these hands move? They do, so we can actually make his hands straight if you'd like that. And then he actually reminds me a lot of the promotional Toy Fair Shrek figure. Yeah, they're both very neutral Shreks, but I think the Toy Fair one is actually a little sharper and a little better. Probably because this one is technically pre-production before the line came out. And with this one here, when you ship it to stores, you have to cut things out due to costs. And I imagine with a toy like this, I would not be shocked if McFarlane was taking a loss on it because of the level of detail. I mean, it is just completely insane. And then finally, we get to the reason I had to buy this toy new and not loose. And that would be the book. There it is. There is the Shrek book. It unfortunately does not open up. I would have loved that. This would have been a 10 out of 10 playset if it did that. But even as a small prop, it is very, very cool. And this little book, I would say, is one of the most difficult pieces to get in the entire Shrek McFarlane line. I have never seen one of these loose. I've seen the outhouse loose many times before, and the book is never included. I've seen many lots of the McFarlane minis, and still the book is not included. So I finally just bit the bullet and bought this thing boxed because this Shrek does not stand up very well. I really wanted that book, What a load of flush, right? This isn't the only toy of the outhouse. They have made other outhouse toys before. Most recently, we got the blind box figures from Culturefly that did come in these cute little outhouses. And while I did praise this, I still think it's really cute. When you compare the two, yeah, it's no contest. A toy from almost 25 years ago is better in every way. I mean, that detail is so, so amazing. It is. I don't know what else to say other than, yeah, it is phenomenal. So there is Shrek's fairy tale world, but as we know in the movie, it is not just populated by Shrek, as he soon gets some newcomers in his swamp. What are these fairy tale creatures doing in my swamp? Yes, McFarlane did make multiple sets of fairy tale creatures so you can invade Shrek's swamp, and you could just add Fiona, the three little pigs, all of the characters that would go on to become staples of Shrek's world. We even have some intruders in the form of this Duloc Knight here that was chasing Donkey, and it looks like Shrek and Donkey are about to give this guy the swirly of a lifetime. So yeah, you can buy all of the McFarlane figures and really complete out this scene. But best of all is you don't just have to use the McFarlane figures because we've had over 20 years of Shrek toys. And behold, you will find that many of the Shrek figures look fantastic with these displays. So if you do find them loose and incomplete, there are lots of substitutes for these figures. Shrek has had a lot of smaller scale figures over the years, and pretty much all of them look amazing with these McFarlane miniatures as a backdrop. That's why this playset, in my eyes, is a must for any Shrek fan, because it creates beautiful set dressing for your Shrek toys. I mean, just look at this. 3 different styles of figures, and they all look really great with these scenes. And there's no rules on how to display these. Like, even from the back, the house looks really solid and nice, and any Shrek figure looks good with these. I mean, look at the Hallmark ornament with the outhouse. That looks like it was made for it. It's incredible. So that's really why these playsets rock, is they give you a lot of versatility with your Shrek toys, and you can configure these in a number of ways that just look absolutely ogre-tastic and really turn your Shrek collection from a Shrek shelf into a swamp worthy of an ogre. And there we have it, Shrek's swamp in plastic form. One of the coolest vintage toys ever made. Just saying this is vintage feels weird, because when you look at the detail, the play features, and the fun factor in something like this, it honestly feels as fresh as it was when it was on store shelves all the way back in 2001. Todd McFarlane and his talented team of sculptors and painters truly created a toy that is definitely worthy of space on your shelf. If you're a fan of the Shrek franchise, or even just cartoons and animation in general, I think you'll get a kick out of assembling this toy. It's a little tough to get these days, especially complete with all of its pieces. You may have to buy all 3 of them in box, due to how hard some of those pieces are to get. but it's definitely worth it. I love it. I think it is so awesome and so cool, and I think it captures the spirit of especially the first Shrek movie so well. Let me know in the comments if you had any of these toys as a kid. I would be very curious if these withstood child play. I was a Shrek 2 kid. The only Shrek 1 toy I had was one Lord Farquaad, because even in 2004, he was still sitting on the pegs at my local Toys R Us. But I would have killed for this playset as a kid. I think it's really fun. Not only is it displayable as a collectible piece, but it's actually a fun toy that you can play with. So thanks for joining me and reliving some 2000s nostalgia with Shrek and his plastic swamp. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a happily ever after. A huge special thanks to my super swampy supporters: Antonio Bocina, Jidjip, Boa Usta, Taco Time, Love Monster Fanatic, Telephone Wire, Sailor Laws, Binks, The Luke Rosati, The Layered Ogre, SMO3, Griffin Newman, Shotgun Justice, Jamie, Bonzario, Pladley, Don Tizzle, and Pizza Topping. If you'd like to see your name up here, consider a YouTube membership for 99 cents. But a huge special thanks to you for watching the video all the way until the end.